We welcome you back inside the Alex Strouf Show here, presented by Cream City Central. And we go to the phone lines for a conversation I've been looking forward to all day long. Joining me on the phone line is a four-time Wisconsin Sports Writer of the Year, according to the National Sports Media Association. He got my vote last year. He covers the Brewers for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, and he's got a new book out called Turning 50, The Brewers Celebrate a Half Century in Milwaukee, which is out now. It's Mr. Tom Haudricourt. Tom, thanks so much for taking some time, my friend. How are you?
How are you doing?
You know, I'm hanging in there. Obviously, it's been a weird 6 months, first 6 months of this calendar year, Tom, but trying to hang in there as much as we can. How's everything on your end? You staying safe and healthy?
Yeah, that's been the main goal. I mean, without baseball and without much sports at all, you've got to take care of yourself. Hope you get past this. It's been a rough 2020. I know that we've all found out how much we miss sports when we don't have them. You don't realize till you don't have something how much you miss it. And then, and certainly baseball, and that's what I do for a living. So it's I've been at home a lot more than I've ever been during the middle of the calendar year, probably in about 35 years.
Yeah, you've been covering the Brewers, if I'm not mistaken, Tom, since 1987. So this is a nice little break for you.
Yeah, I don't want it. None of us want. I've done about all the yard work I care to do for this calendar year. So I'm ready to try to get baseball going. Certainly not looking good right now, but I'm not going to give up on it until we're told that it's time to give up on it.
Yeah, Tom, well, our Twitter poll question of the day today is the same one we had 2 weeks ago on June 2nd, and it's much different, the poll results. It is, will we have baseball in 2020? And less than 25% of people are now confident, whereas 2 weeks ago it was well over 50% is confident. So given yesterday, how are you feeling, Tom? I mean, I'm just gonna give you the floor and let you talk.
Yeah, well, it was not a good day yesterday. Over the weekend, the players' union said they were pretty much done negotiating, and they said, just tell us when and where you want us to report, and let's go. So they sort of threw the gauntlet down to ownership and said, all right, you guys have the right to implement a season, go ahead and do it. So that seemed to unnerve owners because they had a conference call on Monday. Perhaps they weren't all in agreement about what should happen next, because Rob Manfred later came out and said he was no longer 100% sure that there would be a season. They have a lot. Finances is what they've been fighting over, but they have some other things. They've got to get through the COVID-19 protocols. They've got some rule changes, some roster changes. There's all kinds of boxes that have to be checked. But obviously the money part has been what they've been squabbling over. And I think in a year in which so many people have lost their life, other people have lost their livelihood. Lots of people struggling now, lots of people scuffling. I figure the last thing they want to hear is that players and owners are fighting over money. So it's, I don't think it's played well. I think the optics have been bad for baseball. We're in tough times. This is a unique situation. There's no playbook or rule book or blueprint for negotiating your way through a pandemic. We've never had one in our lifetime. And so, they probably the two sides should get some leeway in just stumbling through this and trying to figure their way to the backside of it. But I just don't think people thought money would be at the crux of the issue. I always thought that, people thought that the coronavirus is what would be the biggest challenge. So it certainly didn't look good yesterday. I know a lot of people are down on both sides right now, particularly the owners. And but let's wait and see what happens. There's still time to come to an agreement. We're not going to have as many games as we'd like to have, I don't think. But I think everybody wants more than 50, which is kind of the bottom line that we're looking at. I think they still have time to get a 70-game season in. We're in a situation where every day that goes by is another game lost, because the owners do not want to extend the season past the end of September, the regular season. They want to get into the playoffs in October. They're worried about a second wave of coronavirus. They also have contracts, national TV contracts for the playoffs that month. And now that it's looking like the other sports might be back in action during that same time period, the baseball wants to get their playoffs done when they're scheduled to be done. And a lot of their revenue is tied into national television money for the postseason. So that's very important to them. So they still have, maybe a week at the most left to salvage a 70-game or so season and then get going when, sometime in July. But they gotta get going. Their negotiating tactics have not been very good, in my opinion. They have done very little actual negotiating and a whole lot of posturing.
Yep.
And a whole lot of digging in.
Yeah, it's been ugly. I called it at the top of the show, Tom, an ugly train wreck, and I can't look away. And the commissioner is the conductor on that train because it is ugly. I mean, what did you take away from Rob Manfred on ESPN last night? Did you see that?
I did, and certainly he sounded a lot more timid in his forecast for the game than he did the week before the baseball draft, when he guaranteed 100% that they would play. That I cringed a little bit when he said that 100%, because I just wonder if anything in this world is 100% now. And so when he said that, I kind of said, man, Rob, I wish you would have said like 99% to leave yourself, 1% to be wrong. So that made me cringe a little bit when I heard him say that. But obviously there was a different tone over the weekend. There's a lot of ugly words exchanged. The more, almost as disappointing as not being able to agree on money is just the tone they're using with each other right now. They have a collective bargaining agreement that they have to work out after next season, after the 2021 season. And it's almost like they're posturing for that already, and they're digging in and trying to lay the groundwork for that negotiation. And they need to stop doing that. They need to stop looking at that, worrying about that, wondering how that's going to work out. Let's get this done first. This is a very unique and challenging situation. I look at this as a one-off negotiation, not setting the stage for next year's CBA talks. So they need to forget about that. We'll worry about that CBA when we get to it. They need to get something done this year and try to play. Just because they agree on playing doesn't mean it's going to work out. If there's another big wave of coronavirus and a lot of players start getting sick, then they're going to have to call it off. But you got to at least try.
Right.
You have to try. I think everybody wants them to try. So let's try.
And it doesn't seem, to me at least, Tom, that maybe not both ends, but especially, the Manfred and owners end, maybe they're not trying hard enough. Tom Haudricourt of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel here with us on the Strouf Show. Tom, what'd you take away from today's report that we heard? 6 to 8, maybe even more owners don't even want to play a season this year anymore, given what's happened.
Well, yeah, I do think there's a lot of them that are trying to figure out if it's better to play or not play. I get that everybody's going to take a hit and there's going to be money lost on both sides. But, the sport's been very financially successful for many years now. And by all reports, made somewhere around $10.5 billion split between the two sides last year. So they've been making a lot of money. Their franchise values have really been soaring. So they've been riding a pretty good wave of financial prosperity. And now it's going to be a tough year. And they're just going to have to figure a way to get through it and not lose any more money than they have to. But, there's over 40 million people that have lost their jobs. Lots of other people have had salaries cut, furloughs put into their equation. And so there's a lot of people suffering right now. But at least owners, unless they're planning to sell the team in the next couple of years, they should have time to recoup some of these losses. Word came out yesterday or the day before that pending deal with PBS, Turner Sports, to broadcast the postseason starting in a couple of years. I think it was like $3 billion over 6 or 7 years. So they've had a pretty good run here of things going really swimmingly financially. And now, just because you're going to have one bad year, you're going to decide to cut bait instead of fishing. let's try to work through this. I think any owner who would rather not play than play maybe should think about selling his team.
Yeah, and I'm curious, and I don't know if you'll have an insight on this, but Bud Selig, as I know, he wrote the foreword of your book, which we'll get here to in a few minutes. I'm just curious what he's thinking, watching all this go down. I mean, I have to be curious, right?
Well, I talked to Bud a lot. We actually live in the same neighborhood. He knows that how hard it was in '94 and '95 when they had to call off the World Series and they had that ugly work stoppage. And he pretty much promised himself to do whatever he could from then on to not let that ever happen again. And they've made it this far. They've made it 25 years later. They still have not had, a work stoppage. And so they overcame years and years and years of having work stoppages, and it was really hurting the game badly. Mm-hmm. And then now they've been in a 25-year piece, and I don't think it's any coincidence, and no one would suggest that it is, that the game has prospered like never before during that time. So I know he doesn't want to see that come to an end, either this year or next year. So he one thing that everybody always liked about Bud, both as an owner and as a commissioner, he was first a fan of the game.
Yeah.
And no fan of the game ever wants to see it shut down.
And I think that's a great perspective on the commissionership, if you will. It's just all a mess. But let's get away from that because I'm sick of talking about it. Truthfully, Tom, we had an MLB draft last week, and obviously we won't see these guys for a while. But Garrett Mitchell, 20th overall, the outfielder from UCLA. What do you know about him?
I know the Brewers were excited to get him. For whatever reason, whether it's other teams just had other things in mind or whatever, he dropped farther in the first round than most people had projected him to. He has type 1 diabetes, and I don't know if some people are nervous about that, but he's had it since the third grade. So this guy knows how to live with it and prosper with it and know what he has to do to be a baseball player with it. One of the top college players in the country. Has 4 tools. The one tool he hasn't developed yet is power, but we'll wait. Christian Yelich wasn't a power hitter when he was drafted either. So we'll wait and see. But he can run like a deer, great center fielder. He's kind of a prototypical leadoff guy. Gets on base a lot and then makes things happen on the bases. But we had to do a Zoom with him, and he was fantastic. Man, he's got a lot of life to him. Really funny kid, really fun kid. So I think they really are on to something there. UCLA is a really top-notch baseball program. So they were excited to get him at number 20. And then after you talk to him, and the more you look into him, the more you see why.
Yeah, and, I saw something on Twitter that he quote tweeted and said, we're going to do this. Every position player that's been drafted 20th overall or higher from UCLA has won a World Series. So that's big shoes to fill.
What a challenge, huh? What a challenge. And, it's a great program. He's coming from a hotbed of the country, Southern California. A lot of great baseball players come out of there. So, hopefully we can get some. I don't think we're going to have minor league baseball this year, but hopefully they can get his pro career started as soon as possible because I think he could be a guy that goes fast to the big leagues.
And we hope so. That's what you always hope for with your first round pick, now, isn't it?
Especially out of college.
Especially out of college. Tom, before we let you go, let's talk about the new book, Turning 50, The Brewers Celebrate a Half Century in Milwaukee. You've been a part of a lot of that half century, so fitting you wrote it. Forward, as I mentioned earlier, by Bud Selig. Tell me about the book and how it came together.
Yeah, it's mostly a photo book. This is a collaboration with my bosses at the Journal-Sentinel because that gave us access to the Journal-Sentinel's vast photo archives. So this is more of a commemorative photo book, but I wrote the copy in it, and it does go through the Brewers' 50 years of history, and it was fun. And I did some new interviews with guys and added that to the book, but it's some just absolutely fantastic photos in there. We held it. It was going to be released earlier. We held it waiting for the start of the baseball season. And then the more the baseball season got delayed, we finally decided, let's get this book out there. It is a commemorative book. If you're not going to baseball, you're not going to Brewers baseball, at least you can read about Brewers baseball and look at some great photos. So it does go through the 50-year history of the book. It does have some great photographs. You can get it from KCI Sports Publishing or Amazon Books or Boswell Books. It's being sold in Meijer grocery stores, Kroger grocery stores, I believe Pick and Save. So you can get it pretty much wherever books are available. And I think, Father's Day is Sunday. What is today? Tuesday. I think if you get on the horn today or get to one of these stores, in the next couple of days, what a great Father's Day gift, right? Especially if your dad loves the Brewers, he's going to love this book because the photographs are fantastic. I will just modestly say the copy's pretty good, I think. I wrote it, but the photos are fantastic. And this is a keepsake, I won't call it a coffee table book, but it's definitely a commemorative book, and it's a keepsake. So it's going to have lasting value beyond this week and this year. So hopefully people will get it and enjoy it.
Yeah, you've only won Wisconsin Sports Writer of the Year 4 times, Tom. I bet the writing part of that book is just horrible.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The photos are better than the writing, so hopefully the writing's good.
Yeah, exactly. Tom, thanks so much for taking the time to sit down with us. And, I'm going to hop on Amazon as soon as I'm off the air here because, I need a Father's Day gift. So thanks for the idea, and thanks for joining us.
Awesome, Alex. Thanks so much for having me on.
That's Tom Haudricourt of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. He covers the Brewers, and he had some great insight on everything going on in the world of baseball, which obviously, as we've talked about all day long, is just absolutely insane, unbelievable. Incompetent is the word we keep bringing up on the end of the commissioner, Rob Manfred. I'm sick of talking about it. Let's take our final break. On the other side, I'll tell you what we've got coming up Thursday. Got a big day on Thursday coming up for the show. So we'll talk about that on the other end and our Tuesday thoughts to bring us home. This is the Alex Strouf Show, presented by Cream City Central.